this story doesn't begin with a murder, or a lie, or even an affair. It begins with a message. Just one. Text on her phone screen. Message appears as typed. I can't stop thinking about last night. I want you so badly. It was meant to be private, personal, shared between two close friends, in the way people sometimes share things that are too raw to say out loud. Clara's thumb taps send. Her face relaxes. A breath leaves her body. Clara Evans thought the message was going to Maya, the friend who knew everything, her safe space, her mirror, the one person she could say anything to without fear of consequence. She checks the phone again. A shift, subtle, then sudden. The name at the top of the thread isn't Maya. It didn't go to Maya. It went to Lucas Sterling, her boss. Clara freezes. Her face drains. For most people, sending a risky message to the wrong person is awkward. For Clara, it was something else entirely. Because Lucas Sterling wasn't just anyone. He was the CEO, the billionaire founder of one of the most influential private tech firms on the continent. A man so composed, so guarded, so intentionally distant, that no one in the building even knew what his voice really sounded like. In casual conversation. To many, Lucas was a figure carved out of stone, a man who moved through boardrooms like a force of nature. He didn't just lead companies, he reshaped markets. He was strategic, unshakable, cold. Clara had worked under him for almost 2 years, but he had never looked at her. Not really, not like that, until now. Cut back to the text. Her face, her trembling hands. She tried to breathe, tried to think, but all she could feel was heat rising through her chest. Because the message wasn't vague, it wasn't a joke, it was intimate, blunt, hungry. And now, it was in his hands. Rewind. 12 hours earlier. To understand what happened next, we have to understand who Clara Evans was, because no one just sends that kind of message to someone like Lucas Sterling, unless they didn't mean to. Clara was known for 3 things at Sterling Vale. She was efficient, she was loyal, and she was invisible. She didn't crave attention. She didn't seek power. She didn't try to rise. Not because she couldn't, but because she believed it was safer to stay exactly where she was, near power, but never a part of it. Visual, her at her desk, focused, quiet, a ping, a message from Maya. She smiles. Her one outlet, her friend Maya, was the only person who saw the side of Clara. The office didn't. The one who got the sarcasm, the bad jokes, the bad dates, and the late-night texts that were a little too honest. Scene shifts, night. Clara at home, laptop closed, phone in hand. She wasn't drunk. She wasn't emotional. She was just tired. Tired of pretending she didn't notice the way Lucas never acknowledged anyone. Tired of pretending she didn't sometimes wonder what it would be like if he did. Tired of holding everything in. Cut to her typing. She smirks to herself. It's filthy, but fun, meant for Maya. Can you imagine if I ever said this to Lucas? LMAO, dead. She presses send, smiles. The smile lingers for half a second. Then confusion. Then horror. Then silence. And that's where it begins. Not with a crime, not with a scandal, but with one moment, one flick of a thumb. That shattered everything Clara thought she understood. About safety, about secrecy, about the line between fantasy and consequence. Cut 2. Lucas in his office. He reads the message. Silent, still. His eyes fixed. No one knew what Lucas would do next, but Clara would soon discover. He had already decided. There's a moment just after a mistake where the mind doesn't panic. Not yet. It stalls, as if buying time. To convince itself this isn't real. Visual. Clara in her apartment, frozen, phone in hand, her breathing shallow. Clara Evans stood in the center of her apartment, staring at her phone like it had betrayed her, like it had made a decision. On its own. Her thumb hovers above the screen. She opens the thread, reads it again. Eyes dart, breath catches. She had read the message 10 times by now, each word louder than it felt when she typed it, each line burning with the kind of clarity you only get when it's too late to change it. There was no undo button, no feature, no app, no tool. She could code half the company's admin flow blindfolded. But this was human error, raw, irreversible. And Lucas Sterling was now the one holding the evidence. At exactly 9:36 p.m., Lucas Sterling's private line lit up. One message, from a name he recognized, but didn't remember. Clara Evans, assistant, back row of meetings, quiet, reliable, unremarkable. Cut to Lucas, still, seated at his desk. His phone buzzes once. He picks it up. He reads the message. Still. His jaw doesn't move. His eyes scan once, then pause. The message is suggestive, direct, unfiltered. Lucas didn't believe in coincidence. He didn't indulge in chaos. But what he had just read was neither business nor mistake. It was personal. It was a collision between two lives that were never supposed to touch. Back to Clara. She's trembling. She paces, then sits, then stands again. She begins typing. Clara began to type an apology, a confession, a plea to forget. But every sentence she wrote sounded like panic, like guilt, and guilt would only make things worse. Delete, rewrite, delete again. Frustrated, she throws the phone on the bed. It buzzes. She gasps, walks slowly toward it. One message appears. Well, this is a surprise I wasn't expecting. She reads it, again, again, and again. It wasn't cold. It wasn't angry. It wasn't dismissive. It was open, measured. And that made it worse. Because now, there was no clear path forward, no correction, no clean exit. She stares at the screen, blinks, heart racing. Clara's eyes scan the message over and over. Was he mocking her, testing her, flirting? She didn't know. She knew how to handle expectations. She knew how to fix things. But this wasn't a broken spreadsheet. This wasn't a late email or a mistyped memo. This was intimacy, dropped without warning into the inbox of a man who didn't blink, unless he had a reason. Phone buzzes again. Maya. Clara answers. Her voice is shaky, quiet. She sits on the bed. Clara, softly. I did something really, really stupid. Maya, calm. Okay, walk me through it. Clara reads the message aloud. Maya pauses, then exhales, half disbelief, half amusement. Maya. Clara, that's not a mistake, that's a headline. Maya laughed, not out of cruelty, but because she knew Clara. She knew this wasn't who Clara was. Or maybe it was. The version of Clara she only ever texted. The one who lived after 9 p.m. The one who kept her real self, locked in group chats and private threads. Clara, panicking. He replied, I don't know what it means. He just said, well, this is a surprise I wasn't expecting. Maya. He replied, he didn't fire you. He didn't report you. That's something. Clara now seated on the floor, back against the bed, holding her phone like it might explode. The line had been crossed, but it hadn't snapped. It bent, held, shifted, and now, Clara wasn't sure which way it was bending. Was it towards disaster or something else? Cut back to Lucas. He's pacing now, silent. He walks to the window, stares out. Lucas Sterling didn't entertain emotion. But that night, he thought about Clara Evans, not as a file, not as a function, but as a question. And for the first time in years, he didn't already know the answer. Most mistakes burn out in the light of day. This one didn't. It lived in the dark, quiet, undisturbed, but never forgotten. The next morning, Clara Evans walked into work as if nothing had happened. Because she had to. Because no one else could know. Montage, co-workers talking, printers humming, phones ringing. Clara sits, blank face, her phone, face down, vibrates once in her bag. It was a message from him. Lucas, text. Last night's surprise left an impression. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't accusation. It was deliberate. And Clara, against every rule of corporate etiquette she'd ever followed, replied, Clara, text. Consider it a glitch in the system. Won't happen again. 3 dots, typing. Lucas, text. That would be unfortunate. Pause. No reaction, no expression, just silence, loaded with meaning. And that's how it began. Not with an affair, not with a confession, but with coded language, half playful, half guarded, sent in the middle of ordinary days. Visual. Clara in a meeting, precise, taking notes, focused. Numbers reflected in her glasses. By day, Clara was exact. She spoke when necessary. She kept notes no one asked her for. She ran logistics with the accuracy of a machine. No one suspected that her phone, tucked beneath the desk, always silenced, had become a thread line between 2 worlds. Lucas, text. You're much more interesting after office hours. Clara, text. That's because you don't talk during office hours. Lucas, text. I listen, carefully. He didn't flirt like others did. He never used compliments. He asked questions, precise ones, the kind that stripped away pretense and left only thought. And Clara responded, not because she wanted danger, but because she had never been asked anything by him before. Lucas Sterling was a man divided. To the world, he was a fortress, impenetrable, but alone. He read her messages like riddles, not because they were unclear, but because he was beginning to see a person no one else had seen. Cut to Lucas, alone in his office, rereading a message. Clara, text. I like rules until I don't. He lets a rare smile flicker, gone almost instantly. For the first time in years, Lucas Sterling smiled, not because he was amused, but because he was curious about someone, not their performance, not their file. Them. Maya. How long are you going to pretend this isn't affecting you? Clara. It's texts. That's it. Nothing more. Maya. You're talking to him more in an hour than you've spoken to anyone in a week. Clara. It's harmless. Maya. That's what everyone says before it's not. Maya wasn't wrong, but Clara couldn't explain what this was, because it didn't have a shape. It wasn't dating, it wasn't friendship, it was a connection, tense, wordless in person, loud behind a screen. Office kitchen. Evelyn stirs tea with the wrong end of the spoon. Evelyn. You've got the look. Clara, frozen. What look? Evelyn, smirks. The one where your heart's doing flips and your brain's pretending it's still in charge. Clara. You're imagining things. Evelyn. Oh, honey, I've been here longer than the carpet. I don't imagine. I notice. Evelyn didn't ask questions. She made observations, quiet ones, funny ones, but always accurate. Evelyn watches Lucas walk past. He doesn't glance at Clara, but his hand, just briefly, slows to adjust his cuff. Evelyn smiles to herself. Late night, Lucas in a meeting. Everyone leaves. Clara gathers files. Silence. Then, quietly, he speaks. Lucas, do you ever wonder what would have happened? If you hadn't hit send. Clara, frozen. Every day. Lucas, so do I. He didn't smile, he didn't flirt, but something cracked, just slightly. The silence between them had shifted. No longer absence. Now, tension. Now, presence. Dark. Phone screen glows. One new message. Lucas, text. You challenge me. I wasn't expecting that. She types, stops, types again, sends. Clara, text. Then you weren't paying attention. By this point, Clara wasn't afraid. She was alert. Because the rules she had followed for years had begun to bend. And once they did, it was never the same. A meeting room, cold light, stark silence, a digital clock, ticks, papers shuffle, no one speaks. Then, a new figure enters, confident, sharp suit, colder smile. Power doesn't always arrive in the form of a crown. Sometimes it enters through a side door, wearing a promotion-like armor and hiding ambition behind practiced smiles. Camera tracks Raphael Voss, tall, charismatic, surgical in movement, as he takes his seat across from Lucas Sterling. Not a rival yet, but close. Closer than anyone should be. Raphael wasn't new, but he was ascending. An executive brought in from the London branch, praised for aggressive growth strategies, cost-cutting tactics, and results that came fast, sharp, and without apology. Quick cut. Office hallway. Clara walks with files. Raphael watches momentarily. He didn't know her well, but he had heard the whispers, and Raphael listened carefully, especially to what wasn't said out loud. Cut to the water cooler. Two co-workers, pretending to chat, but eyes dart to Clara's empty desk. It started like most things in office corridors do, with a glance, a vague comment, a name said too softly to be innocent. Coworker 1 whispers, "She's always in late meetings now." Coworker 2, "He doesn't even let Jenna that close." Coworker 1, "She must know something." Coworker 2, "Or have something." Back to Clara. Desk, eyes forward, blank expression. But her inbox, slower. Emails, delayed. A file she saved yesterday, mysteriously overwritten. At first it was subtle, a misplaced document, a calendar invite removed, an internal email accidentally excluded, but Clara noticed. She always noticed. Raphael passes her desk, stops, places a file. Raphael, "Lucas must trust you a lot. That's rare." Clara, "I just do my job." Raphael, "Sure, but jobs don't usually come with special privileges." He walks away. It wasn't a compliment, it was a test, and Clara knew it. Cut to Lucas, boardroom, Raphael presenting numbers. Everyone nods. Lucas listens, silent. Lucas was watching, but not just Raphael. He had seen this before, ambition wrapped in performance, confidence hiding a blade, and now that blade was inching closer to Clara. Later, Clara is assigned back to a task she was removed from. No explanation. A department head receives a message from Lucas. Let her handle it. Lucas never acknowledged her in public, but behind closed doors, he moved things, quietly, surgically, protecting Clara without ever saying her name. Cut to Maya and Clara, lunch outside. Clara checks phone, another glitch, another deleted invite. Maya, "You think it's Raphael?" Clara, "He's too smart to be direct." Maya, "Then don't play fair, play aware." Maya had grown up in politics. Her father lost his seat because he underestimated quiet ambition. She recognized the shape of Raphael's tactics, and she knew Clara was the kind of person who thought silence kept her safe. Another meeting. Raphael leads, subtle digs, mentions of integrity, earned responsibilities. Clara looks up. Just once, their eyes meet, no words. Raphael wasn't just chasing Clara, he was climbing through her, Because in Lucas's world, access wasn't given. It was noticed, and right now, all eyes were on her. Back at her desk, her laptop flashes, another overwritten file. She looks up, Raphael, watching. She knew now. This wasn't sabotage, it was pressure. The kind that isn't designed to destroy, but to provoke, to force a mistake. Cut to Lucas, office, watching through the glass. He sees Raphael's movements, Clara's reactions. Still, no words. Lucas Sterling didn't speak often, but when he moved, it was always for a reason. And Clara, whether she liked it or not, was now part of that calculation. At a sterile office, screen glows dimly, Clara still, unmoving. A cursor blinks, waiting. A clock ticks in a quiet office. The space is sterile, efficient, measured. A screen glows in the dark. Clara sits still. She isn't working. She's watching the cursor blink, waiting for words that won't come. Some burdens are invisible, not because they're small, but because we carry them so tightly. They leave no room for light. Cut to Clara in an elevator, silent, surrounded by reflective steel, alone, but not still inside. By this point, the messages weren't a shock. They had become a rhythm, a private current beneath the surface of routine. But Clara was struggling to breathe inside the calm. Clara at her desk. Lucas passes. No words, no contact, but eyes hold, 1 second too long. She notices, looks away. They never crossed a line, but they kept approaching it, quietly, deliberately, each time stopping just short, as if proximity itself was the thrill. Hallway. Clara brushes past Lucas. Her sleeve grazes his. He stops, doesn't look back. She does, for 1 second, too long, then walks on. Books stacked by a window, one open, handwritten notes, poetry, a single line. I am a house without doors, but you found a way in anyway. Before the company, before the suits, before the pressure, Clara wrote poetry, not for fame, not for praise, just to translate what silence never could. She closes the book, her phone buzzes. She doesn't check it yet. She had forgotten this part of herself, but the messages and everything they awakened had stirred something she had carefully hidden. Lucas Sterling never spoke about his childhood, but his silence was loud. Raised in wealth, but not warmth. He learned early. Attention was currency. Control was armor. Cut. Lucas rewinds a video once, then deletes it. He built a fortress, brick by brick, promotion by promotion, until nothing reached him, and no one expected to. But now, a message had. Clara walks in. Voices hush. One pretends to stir coffee. A smile. Fake, then silence as she leaves. The rumors had grown teeth, not confrontational, just surgical. Whispers became looks. Looks became isolation. Clara overhears co-workers whispering. Employee 1, low. They say he reads her texts during meetings. Employee 2. I'd get promoted too if I said stuff like that. Employee 1. She's playing dangerous games. Clara steps back into the corridor. Blank face, but her hand tightens around a folder. This wasn't jealousy. This was calculation, and Clara knew. No matter how private her messages felt, perception was the only thing that mattered now. Later that evening, Clara's phone buzzes. One message, from Lucas. Come up to 56, after hours, just you. No name, no reason, just words, weightless, heavy. It wasn't a demand, it wasn't a question, it was a door. And Clara now had to decide whether to walk through it or stay exactly where she was. The city outside is almost silent now. Most lights in the high-rise have gone dark, except for one. Floor 56. Elevator doors slide open. Clara steps out, dim hallway. Her heels echo softly, one, then another. A single elevator opens. Clara steps out, alone, into the dim, echoing hallway. Her heels land softly, one, then another. Every step feels deliberate, heavy with the unknown. Clara pauses outside a glass wall. Her own reflection stares back. There are moments when time slows, not because the world stops, but because your mind is trying to memorize something before it changes. This was one of those moments. She lifts her hand, pauses, then one knock, a soft click. The door opens. Lucas, seated beside the window, not behind a desk, no tie, one button undone, holding a glass of water. She enters. Lucas is seated, not behind his desk, not standing, but beside the window, one hand holding a glass of water, the other on the arm of the chair, no tie, top button undone, still precise, still composed, but slightly human. They don't speak, not at first. Clara closes the door, stays standing. Lucas doesn't invite her to sit. Lucas, quietly. "Thank you for coming." Clara, measured. "You didn't say why." Lucas, "I wanted to see if you would." He didn't speak like a boss, not here, not tonight. And she didn't answer like an employee either. The room had changed. Clara sits across from him, hands clasped in her lap, posture strong, but stillness says more. Lucas, "Do you know why I don't talk in meetings?" Clara, "Because you don't have to." Lucas, pause. "No, because when I was 11, the only way I knew to survive was silence." He wasn't telling a story. He was reliving a truth, a childhood filled with things unsaid, doors closed, words earned only through perfection. Back to present. Lucas stares past her, not at her, still speaking. "Lucas, I don't trust feelings. I never have. They were never useful to me, until now." Clara, slow, deliberate. "You built a world where no one can reach you. Then you sent me a key. You don't get to be surprised when I hesitate to use it." She wasn't angry. She was protecting something she had barely allowed herself to admit existed, because once named, it couldn't be unnamed. Lucas finally looks at her. "Lucas, I didn't expect your message, but I haven't stopped reading it." He places his phone face down. Clara exhales. Steady. Clara, "It was a mistake." Lucas, "Maybe, but it showed me something." Clara, "What?" Lucas, "That there's someone in this building who doesn't fear me." Pause, a shift in Clara's voice, soft, honest. Clara, "That's not true. I do fear you, not because of your title, but because I don't know how to feel safe around someone who's used to watching people fall." This wasn't seduction. It was navigation, through spaces no one had explored in years, and both of them were doing it without a map. Lucas leans forward, still, intent. Lucas, "I don't want this to be a game, and I don't want it public, but I want something real with you." Clara blinks, still guarded, but not untouched. Clara, "If this goes wrong, I lose everything." Lucas, "Then we make it work." Clara, "In secret." Lucas, "But genuine." No smile, no handshake, just a single quiet nod between them. Clara walks away. Lucas returns to the window. The city stretches below, but this time, he doesn't look down. Not every turning point comes with celebration. Some come wrapped in silence, marked only by breath, and a feeling in your chest that says, you're not alone anymore. Some moments collapse in private, others explode in public. This one did both. A distorted hum, a file sends, silence, then buzz, buzz, buzz. It only took one email, one anonymous message, and what had once lived quietly between two people now lived everywhere. Headlines flash in cold light. Tech CEO entangled in scandal with assistant. Inappropriate messages. Rock Sterling innovations. Power play or forbidden affair? Clara, seeing it. First on a news site, then Slack, then email, screenshots. Her face changes, pale, the office, unaware. Boardroom, suits, silence, cold faces. Clara stands alone. She was summoned, not questioned, judged, by people who had never spoken to her beyond greetings, people who didn't care what was true, only what was public. Board member. Did you send the messages in question? Clara, measured. Yes, but they weren't meant for Mr. Sterling. Board member. And yet he responded. Clara. That doesn't make it a relationship. Board member. Doesn't it? There are no right answers in rooms built to protect reputations. Lucas. Press conference. Reporters shouting. Cameras flashing. He raises one hand. Calm. Practiced. Lucas. Sterling Innovations does not tolerate breaches of professional conduct. This matter is being handled internally. In front of the world, Lucas stepped back because protecting her now meant becoming the enemy. Backstage, one message. Lucas, text. I had to say it. You'll understand soon. But Clara didn't. Not yet. Clara, alone in a restroom stall. Phone buzzes. She doesn't check. Instead, a folded page. A poem. Torn from her journal. She had survived scrutiny. Handled chaos. But this felt like exposure. She leaves early. No one stops her. Walks down the street, head low, hollow. And in her silence, the world filled the gap with assumptions. Maya's apartment, tension, anger. Maya, furious. They don't care what's true. They just want someone to blame. Clara. He said nothing, in front of everyone. Maya. That's because he's playing a long game, and you're in the middle of it. Clara. I didn't ask to be. Maya didn't offer pity. She offered rage, and beneath it, love. Later, outside Clara's door, Evelyn, no warning, just tea, a coat. Evelyn. Everyone's decided who you are. That means you're finally interesting. Now's the time to decide who you want to be. Clara, quiet. I don't know anymore. Evelyn, then sit still and remember. Raphael, alone in his office, holding a small photo, a boy and his mother, no smiles. Raphael wasn't driven by cruelty. He was driven by memory. Flashback, a young Raphael. Boardroom, Lucas walks past without looking. He had spent years watching others rise, while he remained the shadow. This wasn't just ambition, it was reclamation. Present. Raphael watches the news report, then closes the screen. Long pause. He hadn't expected her to break, and somehow, that made him pause. Clara, at home, staring at her reflection, phone in hand, a resignation email blinking. She was ready to leave, everything. Just before clicking send, a new email. Subject, come to the roof, no press, just you. From Lucas. She reads it twice, then closes the laptop. Because even in the noise, there are voices you still want to hear. Slow fade in, a blurred skyline, gentle traffic hum in the distance. Narrator, low, composed, reflective. When you're betrayed in public, you learn to guard the truth like it's currency. But eventually, someone shows up, not with a spotlight, but with a mirror. Interior. Lucas hands Clara a folder. No flourish, no buildup, just fact. Lucas, offering her the folder. These are contracts Raphael approved personally. The vendors don't exist. One of them is registered to a dead woman in Argentina. The others, all redirect back to shell companies he owns. Clara takes the folder, opens it, quiet. Tension built not from shock, but confirmation. Clara takes the folder, opens it slowly. It doesn't take long for her to understand. The truth isn't complicated, it's just buried. And now it's out. Clara wasn't naive. She never believed clean hands stayed clean in a company that scaled skyscrapers. But this wasn't just ambition. It was theft. Boardroom, again. But this time, Clara walks in first. Lucas follows. No announcement. Back to the boardroom again. This time, Clara walks in with purpose. Lucas enters second. He says nothing, just sets the folder on the table. A board member lifts the folder, eyebrows raise. Board member, where did you get this? Lucas, calmly. From a trail Raphael didn't think anyone would follow. No applause followed, no standing ovation, just silence, and the quiet shuffling of papers being read by people who'd once looked away. Moments pass, then chairs move, votes are cast, a decision is made. Minutes pass, then one by one, the board members stand, motioning for Raphael's dismissal. One even nods toward Clara, not warmly, but respectfully. In this world, respect is rarer than affection. Board chair. Ms. Evans, your reinstatement is effective immediately. We regret the events that led to this point. She nods, no smile, just breathes, for the first time, without pressure behind her ribs. Later, not at work, not dramatic, a quiet cafe, 2 untouched cups of tea. Later, not in a meeting room, not on a rooftop, but a quiet cafe, neutral ground. Lucas and Clara sit across from each other. No press, no pretense, just 2 cups of untouched tea. Lucas, softly. You were never just a mistake I wanted to fix. You were the only part of the day I didn't have to control. Clara doesn't flinch, doesn't hold back. Clara, I hated you for a while, not for stepping back, but for not warning me, for not telling me what was about to fall on my head. Lucas, I thought protecting you meant vanishing, but I realized you didn't need me to disappear. You needed me to stand next to you. Forgiveness is never loud. It arrives quietly, like breath returning after you've held it too long. Montage, quiet mornings, coffee refills, a walk through the rooftop garden no one visits. Lucas and Clara in quieter spaces now, coffee refills, shared silences, a walk across the company's rooftop garden, the one no one visits. Their connection didn't begin with flirtation, it began with a mistake, but it lived on through choice, to stay, to speak, to see each other without armor. A moment. Clara reads. Lucas listens. Clara, reading. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. He nods slowly. The line means something to him too. Neither says what. Back at the office, Clara at her desk. Lucas walks past. No pause, no word, but a note is left. Later, back at the office, Clara at her desk. Lucas walks by. Doesn't stop, but slips a note onto her desk without eye contact. She waits until he's gone, then opens it. Note, text. I booked us 2 seats, 1 conference, 1 coastline. You choose which we go to. She smiles, barely, but it's there. Not every ending is a finish. Some are decisions, some are beginnings. That no longer needs to hide. Wide shot. Clara leans back. The city moves outside her window. As the city moves outside the window, Clara leans back in her chair. Not victorious, not unscathed, but standing, and no longer alone. Some victories don't look like applause. They look like ease, like shoulders no longer tight, like knowing where your center is, even when the world shifts. Office interior, warm tones. Clara's nameplate now reads, Executive Strategy Advisor. New door, same floor, different wing. She walks in, leather-bound planner in one hand, a tote, a ceramic mug from Maya in the other. Co-worker passing her. Morning, Clara. Clara, genuinely. Hey, James, you doing okay today? He nods, surprised by the warmth. This is not the Clara who avoided the elevator 3 weeks ago. This is someone choosing presence, not survival. Cut to Lucas, company-wide meeting. He's not sitting at the head. He's standing, behind a podium, note card in hand. Lucas, I want to thank the team, not just for the quarter, but for staying grounded through all kinds of noise. We are what we value, and what I value is trust. It wasn't vulnerability wrapped in big speeches. It was clarity from a man once defined by distance. He had learned that power doesn't come from mystery. It comes from accountability. Back of the room. Clara watches, nods once. He doesn't see her, but that's okay. Later, in the innovation lab, open floor, movement, screens glowing. Clara and Lucas walking side by side, not discussing business. They're shaping ideas, thoughtfully, fluently. Clara, if you want transparency in the boardroom, you'll need it in hiring too. Lucas, I was hoping you'd say that. They weren't just rebuilding trust between two people. They were modeling it for the culture they wanted to create. Junior employees glance up, not with fear, but curiosity. The energy, lighter, less cautious. Scene shifts. Rooftop wine bar, after hours. Golden hour burning across the skyline. Clara and Maya, their usual spot. The place they once called where ambitions go to exhale. Clara hands Maya a folded note, handwritten. Maya, reading. You really wrote this? Clara, it's not a poem, it's a promise. I want us to build something of our own. A mentorship initiative for women navigating leadership in life. Maya, smiling. You're not asking me. You've already named it, haven't you? Clara, laughing. Legacy rising. They toast. The city pulses behind them. Alive, steady, like a heartbeat. Clara didn't win by becoming someone new. She won by refusing to forget who she was, even when the room asked her to shrink, even when her mistakes tried to define her, even when silence seemed safer than truth. Last shot. Clara walking down a glass hallway. Lucas passes. He pauses, smiles briefly. She smiles back. A text bubble still lives, buried in an archived chat thread. She never deleted it, not because she regrets it, but because it reminds her that one wrong message led to the right life. In the end, it wasn't the text that changed her life. It was how she chose to respond to everything that followed. Clara's hand moves across a journal. Handwriting, neat, deliberate, words etched slowly, with conviction. I used to think mistakes were things to survive. Now I understand. Some of them are just beginnings dressed in the wrong clothes. He never replied to my message the way I feared, because it was never just about what I sent. It was about what I'd been hiding from myself. Some stories don't unravel, they reveal. And when they do, you realize they were always yours to tell. Clara walking through the office with quiet strength, her reflection in a window, Lucas in the distance. No words exchanged, but nothing needs to be said. They didn't need to prove their connection anymore. It lived in their rhythm, in how they listened, in what they didn't say. Back in her apartment, Clara pours tea. The phone buzzes. She glances, expects Maya, but it isn't. Message on screen from unknown. You think it's over? You haven't even seen the first chapter. She stares at the screen, no shift in her expression, but her eyes, narrow, just slightly, a breath, a pause, long enough to ask, who knew? Because just when the story feels closed, something knocks. And if you're listening closely, you realize not every thread was tied. Final montage sequence. Clara's notebook closes, her phone face down on the counter, Lucas overlooking the city at dusk, hands in pockets, Maya leading a virtual mentorship session, Legacy rising the first cohort. Raphael in a taxi, glancing at a private folder, a new company listing, quietly loaded on his laptop. Sometimes the message sent by mistake is the one your life was waiting for. If this story made you feel something, tell us what you would have done in Clara's shoes. Would you reply? Delete it? Hide it forever? Leave your answer in the comments. Subscribe for more stories where every choice changes everything. New episodes every week.